Hi guys, it's John back again with another model in box review. Today we're looking at an unusual configured helicopter modelled in 1/72nd scale by Italeri. This is the Kamov Ka-29 Helix, the Soviet naval assault transport helicopter. It's developed from other variants of the Kamov twin coaxial rotor line, which are utilised by the Soviet Navy in various different roles, but the Ka-29 is an assault transport helicopter. So we'll lead straight into the usual in-box boxing history. The kit that I'm reviewing today is actually the Italeri rendition of this model, but I need to start by looking at this. This is the Zvezda Ka-29 Helix B, and the reason why we're looking at this first is because this is actually what you get inside the Italeri kit. It's actually a Zvezda model, it's not an Italeri kit at all. The parts were imported from Russia via Zvezda to Italeri in Italy, and Italy marketed this kit in Europe whilst the Soviet Union was marketed by Zvezda. I also believe they marketed in most of the Far East and Australia. The Italeri kit is a carbon copy of this particular model. This particular model was released originally in 1997. I believe the only difference in the two models is its decals. The Soviet Zvezda model is yellow 20, and if I cut to the Italeri kit is black 209. They're both identical models. The parts inside are identical, the weapons fit are identical, everything about the two models are just clones of each other. And these models were released throughout the late 90s and into the early 2000s, where they were taken up by our old friend Revell. And Revell marketed this kit in 2006 under the Revell boxing, again with different decals on the kit, but it's exactly the same model, same weapons fit, even the same colours and everything, but it was yellow 38 in this case. And then that kit was marketed throughout the 2000s, and in 2015 the kit was marketed by Zvezda again, but it's exactly the same model as was marketed in 1997. Markings are the same, the weapons fit, everything is all identical. So that's the boxing history, not an awful lot. The kit isn't that old actually, I suppose it is 20 years old, but that's not really that old in the big scheme, the big picture. You know, a lot of these kits, especially models from Airfix and Revell, Italeri, they're all marketed in the 70s and 60s in many cases. So that's basically the Kamov boxing history, Zvezda being the parent company and the company that actually produces every sprue for this kit. Leave you a nice image there of a Ka-29 in more modern colours. This is what they look like now, and if you wanted to build this kit and produce it in modern colours, the aircraft is basically medium light aircraft grey, semi-matte all over, with a black surround around the nose cone area there, and the exhaust system for the engines, and also the inlet lips are also matte, semi-gloss black. Now then, what I want to quickly do is bring the phone that's making this video, so if you around to the tabletop so you can see the kit that I'm about to inbox review. Sorry about this guys, but I'll try and make it as quickly as possible for you. Let's see if I can pop it on here. I might be able to pop it on here. Get a nice view of my curtains, sorry about that. There we go, and there's the kit. Now then, what I would like to do first of all is just open the box and take out the parts. put the box down to one side. On the back of the box, before I just discard the box, on the back you've got a nice colour plan there, giving you quite a clear indication of where all the colours go and what colours, paint numbers there you need. It's sort of reminiscent of what Matchbox used to do years and years ago, isn't it? But I like that. It's very clear, very nice. Italeri, well done there. That's good. We'll just start basically with the plans, like we normally do. Let's put those on one side. Now the plans, they're quite small actually, but they fit nice and neat inside the box. I would estimate that to be about A5 when it's folded up, but when it's opened up, it's actually quite a large plan. As you can see, it's quite a large plan there. It's like 2 times A4, topped on top of one another. And on the front page, we've got the model number there, number 076, and the actual title of the model itself, the Kamov Ka-29 or Helix. It was later named by NATO as the Helix B. And this instruction leaflet is printed in Italy. The box is printed in Italy, but all the parts are imported from Zvezda in the Soviet Union. So that's very typical there of an Italeri plan at the front. You've got a paint guide there which is next to it. Again, it's virtually a carbon copy of what is on the back, but it gives you the transfer locations and numbers. And there aren't a lot of transfers in this kit, as you'll see soon. There are no guide icons to methods of construction. But as what forms, I wish this would fold up properly, but it's not going to. I'll just hold it like this. What forms part of the instructions is a parts guide. I'm always a fan of parts guide. I keep telling people that I'm a good fan of parts guide, but basically the parts guide there is nice and clearly located all the numbers for all the parts and where they're located on the sprues. There are 2 sprues in grey plastic and 1 transparency there. And the fuselage halves are actually attached to the sprue A there, which is nice, keeps everything all together. The method of construction, you've got A to F in different paint letters there that are icon there for paints. And these are the paints that you'll be painting the parts as you produce them in the various sub-assemblies all the way through the build. And it comes in altogether 9 steps. So the 9 steps, although there are only 9, there aren't that many parts to each step until you get to the last section. But basically step 1, I'm not with it today. Step 1 is the interior of the cockpit, which comprises of 2 seats, the instrument panel, the main bulkhead and floor, cyclic pitch lever and the joystick, and there's also an instrument panel which fits over the top of the consoles there. I'm not sure what this part is here, 5A, I'm not quite sure what that is, but it might become apparent as we build it. It could be some sort of, do you know what? I have no idea what it is. It's not something I recognise. Step 2, we've got the fuselage halves, which are located here. Obviously you've got the engine base plate with the 2 exhaust pipes, and each fuselage half has 2 windows which go into the sides, and then the forward cockpit is fitted here at this stage in stage 2. Stage 3 comprises of mainly the forward cabin section with the windscreens and side doors there, I think that's the gearbox ventilation and access panel, and then you have the engine intakes and the surrounding fuselage which fits them and locates them into place. And there are a few, they look like access footholes for the maintenance officers and maintenance crew to get up and obviously work on the engines because they're quite high up on this helicopter. Section 4, you've got the tail empennage there, which comprises of 2 rudders and the main gear oleo legs and the forward oleo legs. And there's also a tail cone and some sort of strut there to support the tail empennage. And there's also a pitot tube on the front there, you can see that there. It's not an in-flight refueling probe, it's some sort of avionics probe which fits on the front. It could even be an MAD submarine detector of some sort, not quite sure, but step 5, sorry, obviously on step 4 all of this will be doubled up to go on the other side. But step 5 you've got some more avionics and the forward undercarriage leg that goes on the other side there at the forward fuselage, and step 6 is the armaments fit, which go onto the stub wings and some other rocket pods which are fitted in section B. I like the fact that they're telling you how to manufacture these parts and the order to put them together. I mean, section B, section A sub-assembly was to do with the interior cabin. Section B sub-assembly is the armament fit, and section C sub-assembly is the stub wings which fit on the side of the helicopter. And there's also a couple of other avionics aerials and what looks like some sort of detector, maybe a passive detector there. Step 7 comprises of 2 more sub-assemblies. These basically cover the armaments fit for the starboard side, which are here and here. And then you've got the main part, step 7. Sorry, they don't double up on the previous step. You've got the stub wings attachment and then the main undercarriage oleos and undercarriage wheels. And there's some more handholds and little bits and bobs that go on the top of the cabin there. And there's some more footholes that go in the side of the cabin. I would recommend putting these in before you put this undercarriage and stub wing assembly into place. I think it will make it easier to locate those parts. And then you've got step 9, which is probably the trickiest and most complicated part of this build, because step 9 is the entire rotor assembly. And unlike most helicopters, the Kamov system, produced by, I think his name was Andrei Kamov, is a coaxial contra-rotating rotor system which does away with the need of a tail rotor. Basically, you have 2 rotor heads fitted between 2 shafts which rotate in opposite directions to one another. And this part of the build is very finely detailed, as you'll see when you see the parts very soon. And that the head and hub and everything all has to go together in a very precise way. And I believe that both these rotors will actually rotate in opposite directions when the kit's put together. But this shaft, part 57B here, has to go through the top rotor hub and then through right the way through the bottom rotor hub. And then both will obviously spin freely independently of one another. And then it goes through this entire hub assembly into the base plate of the engine floor there. So it looks quite complicated. There's lots of little tiny arms and I would have thought pitch control levers and pitch control rods rather that fit onto the rotor heads, and then the main blades go on. And as I said before, you'll see soon how delicate and finely moulded those parts are. And then you go to the stencil guide which you've seen before. So that's basically the instruction leaflet. The instruction leaflet is, I've now folded it up absolutely horrendously. But that basically folds back up into that shape there. There we go. So that's the instructions. Next we'll look at the decals. And prepare yourself, because they're not very big. Got some gumph there. I think that's to do with parts service and aftermarket service from Italeri. The decals, there's my hand, there's the decal sheet. So the decals aren't very big, are they? But it does only cover one version. The 076 is not used on the kit, it's actually the Italeri serial number for the model. But these decal sheets, I'm just trying to see what's printed there on it. I might be able to see it better on the phone. It's printed, I can't see the word cartograph on it, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were printed by cartograph. They're very small, but the markings are really crisp and nice. There are basically two flags, a black 206 and two white 206s and two Soviet stars which go on the side. The rest of it are all ID decals for the model itself. So that's your decal sheet. The decals themselves, they're up to Iteleri's usual standard. They're very finely detailed. The register is nice. You can read. I mean, if I had my eyesight that was probably good enough, I reckon you could probably read what was on there. I don't know. Will the phone focus into that enough? Don't think it's going to, but it's a shame because I can see definite pronounced letters in that writing at the bottom of the decal. So that's the decals. Decals very nice again, like you'd come to expect from Italeri. Now I'm going to open this bag because I haven't actually opened this kit up yet. This is like a blind viewing, but I have seen through the plastic, and at the moment I'm suitably impressed. So let's take these parts out. I'm going to put them back in the bag when I'm finished because I want to keep all these bits definitely together. And we'll start with the transparency. Now then, the transparency. It's certainly not an Italeri transparency. It doesn't have that sort of crispy, clear plastic part look about it. But they're not bad, and they're quite nicely moulded. You've got windscreen wipers on the front windshield there. The small windows are quite nicely moulded. They're not particularly clear. You can't see any of my prints through either of these windows, but you can, as you can see, you can just see my prints through the windshield, but it's not that clear, is it? And the other thing about the side door windows is that they actually have a bulbous section to the window that's solid. They're not blown out like I would expect most companies producing parts in 1997 to be, but they are blown out and they're solid as a rock, so you're not going to be able to see anything that clearly through that window, and I don't think you're going to be able to see anything horrendously clearly through that windshield either. But the problem is, of course, is that the front end of this helicopter is extensively glazed, so you are going to see that there is detail inside the cockpit. So you're going to need to paint it up and paint it relatively well. Otherwise you're going to be able to see any abnormalities and problems with the interior work. So that's the transparency. It's not that bad, but it's okay. Let's just say it's okay. It's not that bad. Now then, I'll deal with this with sprue A in a minute, because sprue A is actually a work of art. But sprue B is a bit of a mixture. It's a bit of a concoction of different things going on. First of all, we'll start with the overall quality of the parts. Here's to prove that it's definitely a Russian import. It says there, made in Russia. Can you see that? Don't know if my phone's going to actually focus, but that's what it says on that square block. Made in Russia, so it is definitely a Zvezda moulding. It actually says on the box that the parts are imported by Italeri from Zvezda in Russia and marketed and boxed, and all the decals are Italeri, they're all made in Italy. But with the exception of, I would say, the rotor blades and the main rotor hubs themselves, which are really nicely cast. Very fine pieces of work. I like what Zvezda have done with those. They look very nice. The blades themselves, they've got nice detailing on the blades. Little bit of raised panel lines going down the side there. And if I turn this sprue over, you can see, there's a little bit of flash on that top rotor blade there, but you can see that they're finely detailed and it's crisp. They're quite nice, I like those. But the rest of the parts are a bit waxy. They're a bit heavy, and the detailing on them is a little bit... It's a real mix, because that joystick is really crisp. Can you see the joystick there? That's really nice fine moulding on the joystick. The main wheels and the forward undercarriage wheels yeah, there's a bit of flash on them, but they're quite nicely moulded. The handrails are nicely moulded. Can you see them? And then you get to the slabs that make up the tailplane and rudder assembly. And they look like they've been made out of wax, don't they? There's some quite serious indentations in the parts there. But, and here's a big but, a lot of Kamov helicopters were thin-skinned over metal frames. And it's not uncommon for these dents to appear in the real helicopters. I've seen quite a few photos where these helicopters have obviously seen some serious service, and they've got dents all over the panels and all over the helicopter's fuselage, and this is not unusual. And it wouldn't surprise me if Zvezda have tried to incorporate this type of wear into the parts, but if I was manufacturing this kit, I don't think I would have done it, because a lot of modelers want to build models to make them look like they've just come out of the factory. But that is not an issue, really. I wouldn't see that as an issue with this kit, because it just makes it look a little bit more realistic. The majority of the other parts on this sprue, this part here, which is, I think it's the maintenance hatch for the gearbox assembly that goes behind the main rotor hub, is quite nicely moulded. And then you get this atrocity next door to it, which looks like it's made out of candle wax. It's really, I wouldn't say it's poor, but it's not great, is it? It's not that good. The main wheel hubs in those tyres, there's not a huge amount of detail, but there again, there's not a huge amount of detail in the photo I'm looking on my computer of this Ka-29 either. They look pretty much like that. All the hub parts, they all look a little bit on the heavy side, don't they? They all look like they're sort of waxed, coated. And the exhaust pipes there, they're not too bad actually. That, you know, I've seen worse. They're not too bad at all. There is a fair few tabs attached to all these parts which you'll need removing. I mean, you can see in that picture there's one on that V strut. There's one attached to that little part here that needs removing. Can you see that? There it is. And there's other tabs dotted on the main oleos. You see them there? They'll all need removing, and quite carefully, because some of these struts and bits that the tabs are attached to look quite delicate. So there's a little bit of cleaning up and preparatory work to do on this model, but basically the parts themselves, they're a sort of a mixed bag, aren't they? And then you get a sprue A, and this was the sprue that really, really took my eye when I saw it through the plastic bag. We'll deal first of all with the parts in between the fuselage halves, because you've got some bits and bobs. That's the back of the rocket pods there, and that's the front of the rocket pods. Can you see the detail and the actual quality of the moulding on those pods? They're really nice there. It's just focused up beautiful. Look at them, they're really, really nice. And these parts here, they're the back of the rocket pods, and it's hopefully going to crisp up nice for you. Is it going to come into focus? There we go. They're really nice. I like what Zvezda have done with those. And there's also these parts here, which are the access panels for the forward fuselage, the rocket pods themselves. You've got an instrument panel here, which, there it is, which isn't that bad. I think that will paint up quite nice. There's other parts and bits and bobs here, which are nicely crisply moulded. I like what they've done. Zvezda have done an absolute cracking job with building sprue A. The bulkhead is even quite nicely moulded there. Can you see that? I like what they've done with this. There's the cockpit floor. Nice. I like that. And then I want to move on to the fuselage halves, because the fuselage halves are the stars. Inside of the fuselage halves, nothing to write home about. It's quite bland. There's no panel lines to form the inside of the aircraft's frame or anything. But then again, you're not going to see a huge amount through those little square windows, are you? So I'm not terribly bothered about that. But here's where this kit comes to life. Just get a load of the quality of the mouldings and the lines on that fuselage half. Can you see? That is spectacular. I've built several helicopter models before in the past, and I'm going to be honest with you, I've never seen such a rendition of a fuselage half as this. The recessed outline of that door at the back there is absolutely spot on, crisp, crystal clear. That is definitely a door that opens up in two from top to bottom. The hinges are nicely cast. The actual airframe itself, there's no abnormalities in it whatsoever. You've got a little access panel here with a recessed panel line, and then the rest of the aircraft is shrouded in rivets. But I don't know, I'm hoping that this will actually focus so that you can see them. The rivets on this kit are pretty close to the perfect height. They're really fine. I'm really impressed with the mouldings on this Zvezda kit. And the other side is no, that wasn't a fluke. The other side is exactly the same. There you go, there it is. There's the access hatch at the side, which is nicely recessed. Beautifully finished. It's just coming into focus there for you. There you go. Beautiful. It's even got rivets around the window. The rivets, the quality of the rivet is beautiful. The recessed door access panel on that side, hopefully it's going to focus in for you. Come on, focus in, focus in, focus in. You see it? There we go. It's focused in. It's absolutely beautiful. I can honestly say I've never seen mouldings as good as this, except perhaps on some 48 scale models that I've built. Recently I built the Airfix Nat in 48 scale. I'll be doing a video on that set because I built the Red Arrows Nat and Hawk, and I will be showing you a review on that, a final reveal review, because I do want to talk about that kit. There's a few things that I need to talk about, but this particular model, the Zvezda Helix B, is really, really nice. I'm really impressed. So that's the parts. A bit of a mixed bag, but overall I'm quite impressed with Zvezda's mouldings. Just put them all back into the bag. Sorry about the time it's going to take to do this, but I want to put everything back into this bag so that I don't lose anything if anything comes off the screws. They don't usually, but just, you want to be on the safe side, don't you? Decals back into the instruction sheet so that I don't lose any of those either, and I'll pop those straight back into there. Well, they weren't in there originally. So that's the Kamov inbox review. I just want to quickly go over some of the technical bump about the kit, because it's all good news, really. It's all good news. So basically, we'll just go into this information sheet for you. The model we're reviewing today is the Italeri Kamov Ka-29 Helix B, which is actually the Zvezda Kamov Ka-29 Helix B. Did I say Kamov 29 Helix B for Italeri? I should have said 29. It is. The serial number on the kit is 076, and it's built in 1/72nd scale. The kit comprises 121 grey plastic parts on 2 grey sprues and 7 clear parts on a clear sprue, making 128 parts in total. The model will measure, and I've only got approximations of this because I had to take them off the measurements of the actual helicopter, because it's impossible to judge how big this helicopter is going to be precisely. But it's going to be approximately 8.5 inches in length. That's from the back of the tail to the front of the pitot tube. It's going to sit about 4 inches high on its undercarriage to the top rotor hub, and it's going to have a rotor diameter of about 8.75, which is a lot wider than the actual helicopter, obviously. Model options, there is only one. There's only decals for one from the Soviet Navy, circa 1980 service. Now, costs and options. The 72nd scale options come with the parent Zvezda model, which has been released by Italeri, obviously, and Revell. But Hobby Boss do a 72nd scale model of this kit as well. And Hobby Boss also do a 48 scale model of this kit. Now, I also know that there's another company out there that does 1/700th scale Ka-29s. I can't remember what the company is, but I've seen a few adverts for them, and I think they're built specifically to apply helicopters to 700 scale Soviet ship builds. I don't know how expensive they are because I don't know an awful lot about them, but I do know that they're on the market, and I do know they're quite accurate. Now, the costs for the Italeri kit, they do fluctuate, and these are the costs that the models have sold for. I've seen models selling as low as £4.20 and up to about 15 quid. But it is possible to still find some people on eBay and Amazon wanting 20 to 25 quid for this kit. And just seriously, hold out for the price. There's enough of them cheaper than that. The Revell model goes for anything between £4.50 and £14. And again, it's about 20 to 25 quid sometimes when they're marketed. The Zvezda kit, on the other hand, is a little more, well, let's say it's a bit rarer in England to get a hold of, but it's not impossible. I have seen Zvezda models on eBay going for as little as £7, and I've also seen them going for as much as 15. But they're often marketed at over 25 to 30 because people obviously know they're a bit rarer. The Hobby Boss kit, not sure on the quality of the Hobby Boss kit. I've never seen any of the sprues, but that usually goes for between £15 and £22, and it usually sells for that, so I'm guessing the kit must be quite half decent. The 48 scale Hobby Boss kit, probably again very, very good, because it retails normally for about £40 to £50. I have seen a few going for as much as 55. Conclusions. Right. The parts are definitely Zvezda origin. They're definitely imported from the Soviet Union via Zvezda to Italeri and Revell. And they're a mixture of crisp detail and waxy mouldings, but the quality is relatively good. The fuselage is really nice and moulded crisply with recessed panel lines, and the rotor heads are finely detailed, if a little delicate. The model costs are low, and there's plenty of aftermarket sets to choose from. If you wanted to hyper detail this kit, there is plenty of sets and kits out there, PE and resin sets out there, and they're very reasonably priced and easy to get hold of. Now, if this is the benchmark from Zvezda, then I will definitely be looking out for more of their models, and it comes as no surprise why Revell rebox so many of their kits. I have heard that Revell have reboxed something like 15 of the Zvezda models. Most of them are Russian subjects, but they all seem to be reasonable quality, similar along the lines to this, and I am very impressed with the sprues on this kit. Looking forward to this build, lads. I hope this video has been of some use to you, and I'll see you for the next one. Don't forget to give me a like, thumbs up, it's most appreciated, and if you haven't subscribed yet and you like what you see, check out my other videos and hit that subscribe button. See you again soon, lads. Bye bye.